presenter, Brynne Tillman, who actually did two of these just in September for us, but with all the changes, we thought it was a good time to have a refresher. So take it away, Brynne, and I'll try and monitor questions.
Awesome, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So actually, Ben, this is very different than what we've done before because our times are very different. And so we're going to talk about how to build relationships on LinkedIn during quarantine. I'm Brynne Tillman. I'm very accessible. Reach out to me. Oh, somebody muted me.
Sorry, there you go.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Fabulous.
Yeah.
So reach out to me. Happy to chat. We have a jam-packed agenda. I am going to go through a ton of stuff today. It is being recorded. So we're going to do our best to get this out to you. I'll get the link to Ben, and he has your emails and everything from registration, so he can get that out to you. But there are a lot of things that I'm going to show you that are tactical that you're going to say in questions, can you show me that again? Can you show me that again? I'm actually only going to do it once because I have learned from doing these now for a few weeks that we can take up our whole time redoing what we've learned, which is why they're recorded. So at any point you can come back and watch it. What I'd say at this moment, if you want to take notes, now's the time to grab a paper and a pen, because there are going to be steps that I'll go slow enough for you to write down, but fast enough that you won't remember later on. So we're going to start with the new outreach philosophy. What does that look like today? And then we're going to talk about how do we identify the first degree connections that we want to engage right now. And I have a really good process where we're going to start today after philosophy that this is where there are a lot of steps for you to write down, and I highly recommend that you prepare to do that. Then we're going to talk about 8 ways to engage our targeted first degree connections right now in a way that builds relationships. And we're going to talk about thought leadership in today's environment. This is my only somber slide, and then it's all high energy and really, really exciting. But as we go through our outreach, it is 100% vital that we are recognizing there's an elephant in the room. And that elephant is different for every person. Maybe it's a single dad with 3 kids at home that he needs to do homeschooling and run his business and do his job. Maybe it's a mom who has a family member in the hospital who they can't visit. Maybe it's someone who has been isolated for the last month on their own. We do not know the circumstances in which, if the household in which this message is landing. So what I want you guys to think about at every level is when we are doing outreach to be well aware that there is a major elephant in every household, right? And we may not know what that is. So just be hyper aware. Now is the time to build relationships, show real empathy, and be a resource. The sales will come when the time is right. I'm going to tell you guys, this doesn't mean you can't sell now. There are people buying. There is still an economy moving. If your world is slower, it doesn't mean that no one is buying. There are so many things even real estate agents can do and travel agents can do right now to build relationships that will convert to sales later on. So I want you guys, I do not want, because I've had people leave this saying, well, we can't sell now. And I am not saying that. Absolutely not saying that. If the time is right and it's appropriate and what you sell is needed by the other person, then sell, but don't lead with selling. Don't lead with the sale, lead with being a resource. That's the point. Okay. So typically, if any of you have gone through anything I've ever taught, the goal of social selling is to start more sales conversations. In a crisis, it's just conversations. It doesn't have to be sales related, and I'm going to give you lots of starters on who to connect with and what to say. But I want to keep in mind, the goal of this is to have many more conversations. And I used to say phone calls. I don't have phone calls anymore. They're all Zoom calls, right? Everything I'm doing is face-to-face, which is so important right now and has such an impact. So keep that in mind. So the first thing we need to do is find out who it is that we're connected to that we want to re-engage. So I just want to spend a little time here, because once you understand all the types of people we should be reaching out to and how to do that, you're going to be very busy in a very good way. I'm going to give you a lot of things to do that are going to start a lot of conversations that are going to lead to deeper relationships and ultimately business development when the time is right. So the first is our clients. We have an obligation to reach out to them. These are the first people I reached out to, just checking in, seeing if they're okay, seeing if there's anything I can do, and just having conversations. And we'll talk about personal/professional conversations in a little bit. Our prospects, I don't know about you, but I had a really very, very strong pipeline leading into this. And while some of my things have moved to the fall and some of my things were canceled, and a lot of the prospects that hadn't committed yet said, reach out to me in June or July. That doesn't mean I can't be a resource now. When they said reach out to me in June or July, it was about my, what I'm selling. But between now and then, I can be relevant to them and I can provide value. So we'll talk about that. Referral partners are huge right now. These are great people to reconnect with. And we'll talk deep today about how do we find the right referral partners, the people that are the right people for our own circle, and be of value to them. Vendors are totally under appreciated, especially now. What vendors have you purchased from? Software, IT services, office furniture, you name it. If you had a relationship with someone that sold you something, now's a great time to show your appreciation. If you had, let's say, an IT vendor who helped you transition from your office to your home offices, this is a great person to show appreciation to and build deeper relationships with. Co-workers. So this to me is an absolutely done for one major reason. We think our daily group meeting is connecting, but that is not water cooler connecting. We need water cooler connecting. Pick a coworker a day and schedule 10 minutes to see how they're doing, and just spend some time on the personal side. We have that when we're in the office. We're missing that connection now. And that connection is so vital to continue to build our relationships, especially if you're a leader of an organization. But if you're not a leader and you do this, you become a leader, because this is what leaders do. And community leaders. So I am on this webinar for you guys today because I made a list of the community leaders that have an impact, and I reached out and said, how can I help? Ben and I chatted. He's a community leader that I respect highly, and we decided to do this webinar. But we did this because I think I'm the one that reached out to Ben and said, hey, how can I help you guys right now? How can I help the members right now? So make a list of the community leaders that you've engaged with and interacted with and reach out. So now that we know the who, generally, how do we bring that down to our who, right? Our exact people. And while I believe, that this outreach is so important, what I recognized would happen is there'd be this random acts of outreach. There wouldn't be a consistency around it. And as a recovering sales trainer, it's really important to put a process around everything that I teach. So I thought the easiest thing and the best way to get started is to export your connections and start to identify who is it that we want to engage with. So I'm going to show you how to export, but let me show you what I did. I exported connections. I made this a little prettier than you get, but you get first name, last name, company, position, and date that you connected with them. I love date that you connected with them for a couple of reasons, primarily because when you export in 2 weeks, I know that from April 8th on are new connections. I don't have to figure out who are my new connections that I want to add to this list. It's really simple. So now I'm going to go through my list, and you may have 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people, so this may take some time, but I think it's time well spent. You are going to go, I remember George. Oh my gosh, Sonia, it's been years. I should reconnect. And then you're going to see a ton of people you don't know, but you might want to know based on their company and their position. These are all your first degree connections that you can engage with directly. Then I want you to create columns. So these are columns of activities that I am going to go through each and every single one of these with you today. And you're going to determine, Nina, I'm going to give, I want to do kudos. Hakeem, I'm going to make introductions for Hakeem. Scott, oh, Scott, I would absolutely love to send him a video message. So we're going to go through all of these things, but these are now the activities that we want to do with our first degree connections. Now, you can organize this any way you'd like. You can make it, you know, red and then turn it green. You can put a yes and then make it a D for done, right? Whatever you want to do. But if you export your connections, this is a fantastic way to not go about this randomly, but go about this very purposefully. So how do we export those connections? Here's where you grab your pen or your pencil and your paper, because I'm going to go through, good job, Ben. And I'm going to go through the steps. So the first step is step number 1, click My Network tab. See this? My Network tab. It's the second tab in the menu of your LinkedIn. Once you click that, you're going to go to the left-hand side near Manage My Network. And step number 2 is click on Connections. Step number 2 is click on Connections. Once I do this, I'm going to go to the top right-hand side. We have more steps. Step number 3, click on Manage Synced and Imported Contacts. Now that I've done that, I'm going to scroll down or move down to under Advanced Actions, step number 4, Export Contacts. That's going to take us into our privacy settings, where it gives us all sorts of things that we can download or backup. We're going to click on Connections, step number 5. Click on Connections. And then it's going to say Request Archive. Step number 6, click Request Archive. Step number 7, enter your LinkedIn password. It will ask you for your LinkedIn password. If you don't know it before you start, figure out your LinkedIn password. Without it, you can't get this list. Step number 8, within 10 minutes, go to your email and you will get a link from LinkedIn that says your connections archive is ready. You will click on that and it will take you back to the screen where it says Download Archive. You will download it and it will come down as a zip file. You will click it and it will open a CSV that I save on my desktop and I open it with Excel. And then you can make it pretty and add your own columns. This is so important if you want to put a process around your outreach. I can't tell you how many people have come back to me and said, oh my gosh, this is crazy amazing. I forgot about so many people that I should be getting in front of. So now that we have our list and you have your marching orders around this, we're going to talk about the things that you can do. And I can see there's all sorts of stuff that's going in here. So we're getting questions about the spreadsheet. There's nothing for me to share. You're going to export your own spreadsheet with your own contacts, right? That's my spreadsheet with my contacts. So the first thing we're going to talk about is kudos. I love kudos. It's a really simple way to get on someone's radar and let them know that you appreciate them. So when you are in LinkedIn and you visit their profile, so let's go, Ben, I'm gonna use you today as my fabulous example. So I'm gonna look you up, and for some reason LinkedIn has been a little bit delayed for me today, all day. Not sure if it's me or if it's everyone, but it will show up in a minute. And so I'm gonna now click into Ben's profile, and I wanna give him a kudos because he's so awesome. So I'm gonna go to more and give kudos. That's simple. And I'm gonna decide what do I want to give him a kudos for. And I'm gonna say inspirational leader. And I'm gonna say for making sure that the, would it be centers? Do you write it out, City?
If it's for LinkedIn.
Yep. Members, I got it. Members are taken care of even during quarantine, right?
Right.
So now I'm going to post this. Now, obviously, Ben and I are chatting now, but if this is someone that you haven't talked to in a while, but has done something inspirational or has helped you, look at the options that we could give. And you could, so there's thank you, going above and beyond, team player, making it fun, outside the box thinker, amazing mentor, making an impact. So many things you can choose from. Great presentation, right? And I think these are phenomenal opportunities to just have a little thank you. I appreciate you. So that's kudos. The next thing is pretty obvious and a very low-hanging fruit, which is endorse. Now, I don't recommend you give someone kudos and endorse them necessarily because it feels a little stalkerish, right? Like, just choose one at a time. But as we go through here, again, LinkedIn has a little delay in some things that we're doing. As you move down, you're going to see the skills section that's going to list all the amazing things that Ben is good at. Assuming, do you have your skills section? I wonder if you have that closed.
I'm not sure if I have any skills.
You have lots of skills, Ben. We need to list them here. All right, so I'm just going to go to my last visit, which was Andy Foote. By the way, at one point I'll tell you to follow Andy Foote. So follow Andy Foote. He's amazing. He also does LinkedIn stuff, and he's really great. So I go into Andy Foote and I go, okay, he's amazing at LinkedIn training. He is highly skilled, and we worked on a project together. So I hit submit, and Andy is now going to get a little message and notifications that says, Brynne endorsed you for LinkedIn training. Here's what I love. LinkedIn is going to prompt him to send me a thank you. So he'll say, thank Brynne for endorsing you. Most people will, right? That's just, it's easy, it's a click. But now that opens up an opportunity for a conversation. He thanks me. Andy was just thinking about you. In this case, I was reading a blog and was blown away at how smart you are about LinkedIn algorithm. Thank you for all your insights. How are you doing in all of this craziness, right? How are you making out? I know he's got a young son, right? Is your son, how's your son handling being home instead of preschool, right? You can start this conversation, but the conversation starts with you showing your appreciation for them. And it's just such a great way to start that conversation. Next is LinkedIn recommendations. This is a lot more time consuming and a lot more meaningful. This is where you've taken the time to write something about something that someone did that was outstanding. So if you have a coworker or a vendor that really helped, really did something that had an impact, write a recommendation. So let's say I have Andy had an impact. I'm going to go in, I'm going to click more, and I'm going to go recommend. And it's going to take me through the, again, a little delayed here, should show up any minute. And it will take me through the steps to send a recommendation. Now, unlike kudos, there it is, unlike kudos and endorsements, they don't go public, does not go public until Andy approves it. Or he can actually ask for a revision. So that recommendation does not go live without an approval of the other person. This is one of my favorites, make introductions. So I want you to sit back and think about who are the types of people by title or by industry that are good referral partners for you, not prospects, but referral partners for you. So for me with LinkedIn training, sales trainers are huge referral partners for me. So both I can send my LinkedIn clients to them and they can send clients to me. So typically I would reach out and ask for a phone call with them. But I want to go one step beyond right now. And I want to find out who they want to meet and make some strategic introductions for them. So how do I do this? Well, I could go through my whole Excel spreadsheet to pick out all the sales trainers, or I can search for them in LinkedIn. So if I hit search and people, this is going to take me into the LinkedIn search feature once it catches up. And I can start to put in filters that help me to find those first degree connections. So first, connections. Second, I want people in the greater Philadelphia area. And I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to put sales trainer in title. And when I do that search, I get 14. So I'm connected to 14 sales trainers in Philadelphia. So now I can reach out to Kelly with a little message. Remember, start with empathy or with at least acknowledging the elephant in the room. Kelly, I hope this note is falling in, is entering into a healthy, safe, and sane household right now. I've taken this self-quarantine time to become a better networker and connector of people that are valuable to me and my network. As a sales trainer, are you interested in meeting other people? And if so, what types of people would be good introductions for you from a networking perspective? Kelly comes back and says, thanks for thinking of me. Marketers are great. They can refer lots of business to me. Okay, so I go through this in my sales trainers. I go, oh, a lot of them want to meet marketers, or maybe they want to meet SEO people or whatever it might be, right? So now I'm going to go and I'm going to move sales trainer to marketing. And I do a search and I get 500 plus. I knew I was going to get a ton of marketing people in here. So I get all these marketing folks in here and I can reach out and I go to Brian and I say, hey, Brian, hope that this is landing in a healthy, sane, and safe household. I'm taking this time to build, to help my network connect better. I have some sales trainers that are looking to meet with some marketers. Are you open to networking meetings? And the ones that say yes, I now connect. So think about, so I introduce, so I could say, Brian, meet Lisa Peskin, right? And so I do, and I'll go, Brian, please meet Lisa. Lisa is a sales trainer in the greater Philadelphia area who's looking to meet some marketing folks. Brian is a marketing person, and when I reached out to him, said he was open to meeting sales trainers. Please meet, set up a time to talk, and I'd love to hear how it goes. Now, no shortcuts, Please do not make introductions before you've asked permission to introduce someone. It is incredibly awkward when you make an introduction and one person doesn't respond. It kills two relationships with one stone. So make sure you are doing the job of reaching out. Some of these may turn into networking meetings for you and one of them as well. But keep in mind, this is a great way to build relationships. Engage on content. This is so important. People share content because they want to be found. So if I want to get on Jeffrey Gittimer's, so he popped up here, I want to get on his radar. Now, obviously his content was on my homepage, but let's say it wasn't, and he's on my checklist and I want to engage with him. Eventually when this shows up, and it will over time, I've learned, I'm going to go down to his activity section. I'm going to click on all activity and his posts. And once I do that, I can engage on the things that he's posted, and I can like and I can comment on that. And I'm thinking this one might not be happening. All right, I'll go back to Andy. Let's see. Okay, so if I go to Andy, here's his activity. So if I go to see all and I get to see Andy's activity, I don't know if it's thinking or not. It's so strange today. I just think everyone's home and everyone's on LinkedIn, and so it's slowing down. But if I could get eventually, let's see if I can, it's not going at all. We'll get there. You can go into the activity, into the post, and engage. And if people love that, they posted because they want engagement. Make sure you're taking advantage of that. So hold open office hours. Now, a lot of you may say, well, what does this have to do with LinkedIn? When we make our list, who in our network do we want to invite to open office hours? So let's think about it. First of all, what are open office hours? Schedule one day a week that's consistent, same time, and open it up for people to ask questions. Your prospects, your clients, your network, to hop in and ask questions. Now, Ben has sort of been doing this from a networking meeting, open office hours, right? But you know, you could open this up and you can actually highlight some of the Philadelphia businesses, right? That you can talk about in open office hours. People can come in and ask questions to business owners. This is a great way to be a resource right now. Now, when you launch this, it can be a little slow. You may only get a couple people, but if you stay consistent and you stay advertising it, you're going to build a tribe of people that are showing up to learn about the resources that you are highlighting. This is one of my favorites for a couple of reasons. Take your client to a virtual lunch. Right now, we really need to support our local restaurants. They are hurting desperately. So if you still have income and you are in a place that you can afford to do this, this is amazing. Pick some of the best Philly restaurants or the restaurants that are near the client that you want to engage with. Pick a menu and send it to them and say, I'd love to invite you out to a virtual lunch. Let's pick a date and time. Tell me what you want from the menu and I'm going to have it delivered for you. And then you can have your lunch delivered or make it at home and get on a Zoom call at lunch and share a virtual lunch together. You're doing so much both for the local restaurant. Your client will remember this forever. I mean, how cool is that? It's just such a great little gift. Now, only do this if you can financially do this. I'm not telling anyone to go run out and do this if you're having a hard time. But if you're still making a salary or you're still selling and you still have your normal income, I encourage it because I think it can make a huge difference to lots of people, including your relationships. All right, this next one is so much fun, and I am going to share my phone and share my favorite new toy, which is LinkedIn video messaging. This is so easy to do, and it's so much fun. So I go and I click on Ben, and normally I would just send Ben a nice little message, right? We've chatted back and forth. But today we want to connect with people more personally. So I click that plus sign that was next to write a message. I'll show you that again. If you look at write a message, there's a plus sign. I click on that and I get all these choices. On the top right is video. So I click video and I click selfie mode. And now I can say, hey, Ben, thanks so much for having me on the webinar today. I hope you guys found it helpful. I always love hanging with you, even if it's virtual. And I can now send this video in 2 seconds. Okay, so that was 8 seconds. I got a lot of good stuff in there in 8 seconds. What can you say in your outreach? 10 a day is under 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes if you're going about finding someone. So think about, this is so impactful. I cannot begin to tell you. There is about 100% reaction to this. Sometimes it's, wow, that was cool. How did you do that? And sometimes it's great to hear from you. How are you? Yep, there it is. Awesome. So if you type, if you just say, hi, we'll see it show up, all right, on my phone. Yep. And it's just, I think this is one of the best ways to engage with folks that are, really, that you want to really start to build those relationships with. So yeah, once Ben reacts to that, I will have 100% reaction. But I can wait. It's okay. Well, we'll move on from now. But think about, oh yay, now 100%, right? So these are just phenomenal ways in my mind that you can really start to engage with your network that helps you to really stand out. Okay, curate, create, and share thought leadership. We're going to spend about 7 minutes or so on this, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. Thought leadership is different. Thought leadership is different than content marketing. I love content marketing. Absolutely love content marketing. But content marketing is based on the mindset of the law of reciprocity. I give you something, you owe me something. Sometimes it's an email. Sometimes I want you to feel like you owe me a call. If I provide value, you are going to think about, how, what I could get, how you can thank me for that. That's content marketing. Thought leadership is different. Thought leadership is providing value for the sake of value. So, and the goal of thought leadership is to move that know, like, and trust to attract, teach, and engage. How are we bringing in people, getting them to think a little bit different and start engagement? So thought leadership is a gift. I want you to think of it as a gift. You are giving it, and this is where I want you to think right now. Sharing things for opt-ins, I mean, sure, you can do it, but if you really want to build relationships now, maybe you're moving away from all the opt-ins and having things without opt-ins right now, or you're providing value without thinking about what am I going to get in return. And that's when you start to be seen as a thought leader, and you begin to earn the right to have a conversation. And that's a big piece of thought leadership. When you can share so much value, you get them excited to want to chat. And I call this the ask-offer ratio. I'm obsessed with this. This was a seed that was planted in my head in a book called Gap Selling by Keenan. Gap Selling, everyone in any kind of business development should read this book. It's phenomenal. Ask-offer ratio is one line in the whole book, and it transformed the way I look at thought leadership and mostly everything I do. So what is it? Everything that we do has an ask-offer ratio. We asked you for 45 minutes today. At the end of this 45 minutes, if you walk away going, then you don't see the value in that 45 minutes, or not enough. Maybe it was 30 minutes of value, but it was 45 minutes of your time. The next time I put something out, you're probably not going to click through it. If I ask for a phone call, you're probably not going to be interested because it was just But if you can give so much value for their 45 minutes. So this happens, I put out a 30-second video, a 9-minute blog read, a 5-minute interview, a 30-minute podcast, a 15-minute phone call. Everything has an ask-offer ratio. And at the end of that, if we master that ask-offer ratio, we are going to have a very full pipeline. Because people are going to say, if I can get that much value from X, imagine what a phone call will be. So you want to start to think about that ask-offer ratio. One of the major questions I get on almost every webinar is how much content should I share, how frequently? And the bottom line, I believe, is quality over quantity. Everything someone clicks through that you have shared should master the ask-offer ratio. That's how you convert content and connections to conversation. So what does that mean today? While we're sitting here in self-quarantine, how do we do that? Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to understand what are the challenges our prospects, our clients, our vendors, our community leaders are going through right now. Because if we don't understand it, we can't master it. So we have to know what has changed in their business. How are they personally impacted? So one of my clients who is a leadership coach reached out to a former client to check in and see how they were. They got on a Zoom call, and she found out just in a casual conversation that his biggest challenge is he has his 5th grader that he is now homeschooling, and he doesn't understand the new math. And they laughed. That was the challenge. Well, my client, the leadership coach, after that call, went on to YouTube and found videos to help adults understand the new math at a 5th grade level, and sent those videos to her former client. Has it turned to business yet? No, it was a week ago, not even. But the impact that she makes for him, the value, the fact that he was heard, and that she helped him in a personal challenge. She doesn't know how to do 5th grade math. She couldn't help him there, but she could find a video, right? This is how we have to start thinking. There are human beings on the other side, and this is empathy. This is showing up as a real resource right now. What does their team look like? Were there furloughs? Are they struggling? Are they overwhelmed? Are they a manufacturing plant that had to switch from making shoes to masks? Like, what's going on in their world? What new solutions do they need? This is our job to understand that. And once we do, we need to identify what insights and value that we can bring to their current state. And that's when we start to master on a one-on-one basis the ask-offer ratio. So the last thing I want you guys to think about is that your profile is thought leadership too. And it's really important that you've got it positioned to be a resource, not just, let me get back here, not just a resume. However, there is one major shift that I want you guys to think about, and that's letting your audience know that you are still in business right now, if you are. So, for example, my traditional headline is transforming the way professionals grow their business by leveraging LinkedIn to convert content and connections to conversations. The new line I have added is virtual instructor-led programs for sales teams that are remote. if I do a lot of sales training, I want my buyers to know all those workshops that we had scheduled one-on-one, we can do remotely. And my headline tells them that. So think about how you can adjust your headline to serve your clients and let them know that you're serving your clients virtually. You may look at this and say, how do you have so many characters? I thought you could only have 120. If you have an iOS device, an iPad or an iPhone, you can have up to 210 characters. I think the programmer might have been dyslexic because it's 120 and 210. But either way, I'm happy to take the real estate. So we are just perfect timing. At 45 minutes, we'll open up for Q&A. But the recap is, define your outreach philosophy. You can take mine, you can have your own, but lead with empathy, be a resource, build real relationships, and sell when the time is right. Don't lead with selling, lead with relationships. Export your connections, guys, please. It will change the way you have outreach. It won't be random. Decide, make your columns and decide who do you want to give kudos to? Who do you want to make introductions to? Who do you want to send a video message to? And can really start thinking about being a thought leader now and ongoing, right? Because build a tribe of followers. You can do it. A lot of people say, well, I don't know. It's not, I mean, talk to me, set up a time. I'm happy to share. You can go to 15withbrynne.com. I'm happy to share ways to do this. But I promise you, everyone on this call has their lane of brilliance. You've got something that your prospects want to know. You may not be able to recognize it yourself because it seems so obvious, but you do. And when you put it out there as thought leadership, you become a resource and the business will come. So we're going to go into Q&A, but I want to ask, and guys, put this in comments. Did I meet the ask offer ratio? When you decided to invest 45 minutes and you were hoping to get something new, something valuable, put a Y in comments. If yes, this off was you could put an N2 if it didn't, but if it did, oh, I love seeing that. Thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yay! All right.
So
Ben, yeah.
Do we want to just see if anybody has a question? Maybe we just start letting them unmute themselves.
Sure.
As opposed to having to type it all out.
I love that.
If anyone wants to go, otherwise we can use the chat.
Hi, Brynne. Yeah, I can go first. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for the presentation. It was wonderful. My big question to you is, what would be your advice when you're trying to reach out to people and, with empathy, like you said, especially during this difficult time, and you're really trying to reach them, and you kind of try a couple times and you're not really getting a response. And I guess virus or no virus, what would be your advice in terms of, how many times do you think that we should reach out to people before we kind of cross them off the list and move on, or just your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I mean, it would depend on what that outreach looked like before. If it was like pitch, it's difficult. But if we're really providing value and we're not getting a response, I will actually ask. So I might say, hey, Ben, I've reached out a couple times and shared some blog posts on X, Y, and Z, or videos on X, Y, and Z. I publish these frequently. Are these things that would be helpful to you? Or, is there something else that I can share with you that might be of value? Right? And let him answer. Now, I don't ever say, or would you rather me not contact you anymore? But I might say, what can I do that would be of value for you? Now, if they don't respond to that at all, I'll put it on the back burner. And then maybe 3 or 4 months from now, I might reach back out. And it depends on how high level. Now, the next thing I would do, though, actually, I wouldn't put them on the burner. I would look at our shared connections. And I might reach out to some of my shared connections and say, hey, Megan, I see you're connected to Ben Frank. I've been trying to reach out to him, but I haven't had a whole lot of luck. How well do you know him? And I work with him, or whatever, right? Like, or oh, he's a good guy. However they know, she knows him. say, oh my gosh, would it be okay if, I mean, I would jump on a call with Megan and ask her, like if Ben's a real high target, right? So, you know, Megan, share with me what you know about Ben. Oh my gosh, he is such a giver. He's a great networker, you know, all these great things about, oh, that's awesome. When I reach out to Ben next, can I mention we had this call? Sure. Okay. Ben, Megan and I were chatting, true? Yes. And your name came up in our conversation, true? Yes. Came up. I brought it up, but it came up. And after chatting, she thought it made sense, because I'm going to ask her, do you think it makes sense for me to reach out to Ben again? Yes, great. I have permission to do that. She thought it made sense for me to reach back out. When I came into messages, I see I've, you know, sent you quite a few. I'm wondering now, based on our shared connection with Megan, if you'd be open to chatting. If you're still getting crickets, I mean, there's enough fish in the sea. But if you can get it down, I mean, if it's a real high target, start to leverage that shared connection.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. So, okay, so Wayne says he hasn't had, what's going on with your not positive results, Wayne? Let's hear what you're saying. Maybe it's the messaging, maybe, how can we help you?
I've been on the LinkedIn, the special LinkedIn, and I never got anybody responding to my solicitations or to my
Your solicitations, because
yeah, or to my communications.
So
I think that a lot of these second tier relationships are quite honestly not there. I mean, they appear on the graph when LinkedIn shows them, but when you reach out to these people, even if you have a referral, you get crickets.
So referrals, you'll get a 50% success rate if you follow a very specific formula. And the formula is, so now I go, Ben and I chat. Ben says, hey, feel free to look through my connections. Or I go to a client and I look through their connections and I pull out 8 or 10 names. And I go, I'm just going to use Ben. So Ben, hey, I have loved doing work with you. You happen to be connected to 10 people on LinkedIn that I'm going to be reaching out to. Would you mind giving me 10 minutes to review these names and providing some insights for me? I'm not asking for a referral. I'm asking for insights. Now I get on the phone with Ben. And Ben, thanks so much for your time. Here's what I do. Here's why I'm going to be reaching out. Of these 10, who do you know and who do you think it makes sense for me to talk to? And now I get 5. 5 he doesn't remember. 5 he says these would be great.
Right. That's what happens.
Yeah. Right? Now I reach out. Wayne, Ben Frank and I were chatting the other day and your name came up in our conversation. He thought I should reach out and introduce myself. Maybe Ben and I worked doing X, Y, and Z, or he was a client of mine and he thought I should reach out and introduce myself. Let's connect and I'll loop you in our conversation. Right? Now we connect.
If they receive and respond to that letter, to that communication, most times they're not as active as we would like them to be.
So I'm finding it to be a little bit different when we're approaching it this way, and we have about a 50% success rate. So let's say there were 4 names that Ben said I could use. I'm getting 2 phone calls from that. But it's a formula. It's a very specific formula that you have to follow. If they feel like you're pitching them, they are not going to take your call. They don't want to be sold. Now, I'll tell you, so TD Bank was one of my fabulous fun clients that I closed years ago. And I spent years trying to get into Rob Curley in South Jersey, and he just never responded to anything. And then I noticed that my client, Rob Petcove, was connected to him. I reached out to Rob Petcove. Actually, I was in his office at the time, and I brought this list of names. And he's like, oh, Rob Curley, he's my buddy. In fact, both our boys have juvenile diabetes, and we've been in the same group since they were 4. Great. I've been trying to get to him for a long time. He actually made the introduction for me. Within 10 minutes, I had an appointment to see Rob Curley. When I got, and he knows I tell the story, when I got to TD, ready to go, he was at his desk with his arms crossed, and he's like, go. So I'm like, how did I get here? Like, clearly he didn't want to meet with me. He's like, if Rob Petcove asked me to do something, I'm doing it. So I got that. So I looked at him and I said, if I can help your commercial bankers book appointments the same way, would you be interested? He looked at his schedule. He said, 3 weeks from Tuesday, we have a meeting. Oh, and by the way, how much do you cost? And it was the fastest sale I ever made in my life. So I'm telling you, done well works. There is a small chance that your message sounds like a pitch.
Well, it has to sound like a pitch at some point. You have to be transparent.
No,
You can't be the goodwill ambassador.
you
It's a
can't
little
get on a
too
call. See, I disagree. I think you can provide insights. So I think, so I get Ben on the call and I say, hey, Ben, when Wayne recommended that we chat, was there something specific you were hoping to cover? He may have something. If he says no, so I say, well, I offered some insights, because that's what I do. I'm going to provide some insights. This is how we helped Wayne doing this, this, and this. I'd love to help with some insights today. How can that help, right? So now there are 3 discovery questions that I know an insight I'm going to offer. Discovery question, answer, insight. Discovery question, answer, insight. At the end of those 3, I say, hey, Ben, you know what? Here are the 3 insights. This is your takeaway. I have to tell you, it's interesting. And I have about 4 or 5 case studies that I can go to. Listening to you today makes me think of a client that I helped a year ago. Would it be okay if I share that story with you? Sure. I just offered all these insights. He's going to listen to my story. At the end of the story, I say, I know we set this up as an insights call, but based on what you heard, would you like to explore further and how I might be able to help you the same way? And that's the formula that works.
So let me go through this again. So first, you have to get
recorded. It's recorded. So you're going to
Okay.
get it. And we're going to move on to the next person.
Gotcha.
But it's recorded. And I promise you, I have been teaching this and honing this for over a decade. We got this. We got it. And it works.
Okay.
But it's a formula. And as soon as you go away from the formula, it falls apart.
All right. I'll look forward to reviewing it.
Yay!
Thanks.
Thank you. Who else can I help today? Thank you. Okay. Ben, are we good? Are we through questions or are there more?
Well, nobody's unmuting.
Okay.
I had a specific question about the office hours.
Yeah.
Were you saying set that up?
On
Like
Zoom.
invite people on LinkedIn, but set up office hours on Zoom?
Yeah, and you can invite them by email and by Twitter and however you want to invite them. But I just wanted to throw in office hours. The same thing with buying lunch. It doesn't have to really do with LinkedIn. The piece I keep bringing back to LinkedIn is go through your LinkedIn connections and decide who do we want to offer. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yay.
So is there any last LinkedIn question? Anyone? Okay. So 2 things. One, to thank you. Thank you, Brynne, and everybody for attending. The other is just a reminder that we do have a Zoom for beginners coming up April 30. And if people want to hang out for a little while, I can split you into some smaller groups just so you can say hello to each other and do some networking. Brynne, is there anything else you want